Marlene had always been a woman of habit. Every morning, she would take a walk down the quiet, flower-lined streets of her neighborhood in Brookhaven, stopping by the small park at the corner to feed the pigeons. It was a simple routine, but one that brought her a sense of peace in her later years. She was well known in the community, not only for her kind demeanor, but also because of her son, Ethan, a self-made billionaire whose rise to success had made him a household name. Despite Ethan's wealth and influence, Marlene had chosen to remain in the modest home where she had raised him, content with her unassuming life. One brisk autumn morning, as Marlene made her way to the park, she noticed a figure curled up on a bench. At first glance, she thought it was just another homeless person, someone she'd seen before in the area. But something about the small figure made her pause. The girl couldn't have been older than 9 or 10. She sat with her knees pulled to her chest, her frail body shivering in the cold. Her face was smudged with dirt, and her clothes were worn and tattered, yet there was something strikingly familiar about her, something Marlene couldn't quite place. As the girl glanced up, their eyes met, and Marlene froze. Her wide, soulful eyes, the soft curve of her jaw, the delicate features. She looked eerily similar to Ethan when he was a boy. But how could that be? Ethan was white, and this child was black. The resemblance was uncanny, and the feeling of familiarity stirred something deep within Marlene. She hesitated for a moment, then slowly approached the bench, her concern overriding her natural caution. "Sweetheart, are you all right?" she asked gently, her voice warm and soothing. The girl flinched slightly but didn't move away. She stared at Marlene with a mix of fear and curiosity, her small hands clutching her knees tightly. After a moment of silence, Marlene sat down on the other end of the bench, careful to keep a respectful distance. "What's your name, honey?" she asked softly. "Amara," the girl murmured, her voice barely audible. "That's a beautiful name," Marlene said, smiling. "Amara, where's your family?" Amara hesitated, her gaze dropping to the ground. "I don't have one," she whispered. The words hit Marlene like a punch to the chest. No child should be alone in the world, especially not one as young as Amara. She reached out, her hand resting lightly on the bench near the girl. "How long have you been out here?" she asked gently. Amara shrugged, her small shoulders slumping under the weight of the question. "A while," she said quietly. "Since my mom died." Marlene's heart ached at the confession. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice filled with empathy. "What happened?" "She got sick," Amara said, her voice trembling. "She needed medicine, but we couldn't afford it. She always said things would get better, but they didn't." Her voice trailed off, and for a moment the only sound was the rustling of the leaves in the breeze. Marlene's chest tightened as she listened to Amara's story. The girl's pain was palpable, and yet there was a quiet strength about her that reminded Marlene so much of Ethan when he was a child. She couldn't walk away, not now. "Amara," she said softly, "would you come with me? I'd like to help you." The girl looked up at her, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "Why?" she asked cautiously. "Why would you want to help me?" Marlene smiled, her eyes softening. "Because you remind me of someone very dear to me," she said simply. A few hours later, Marlene found herself standing in front of the glass doors of Ethan's corporate headquarters in downtown Magnolia City. Amara stood beside her, clutching her hand tightly. Marlene hadn't told the girl why she was bringing her here, nor was she entirely sure how Ethan would react. But the resemblance between him and Amara was too strong to ignore. She had to know the truth. As they entered the building, Marlene could feel Amara's nervous energy. She gave the girl's hand a reassuring squeeze. "It's going to be all right," she said, though she wasn't sure if she was trying to convince Amara or herself. When Ethan finally emerged from his office, his commanding presence softened slightly at the sight of his mother. "Mom, what's going on?" he asked, his gaze shifting curiously to the girl standing at her side. Marlene didn't answer right away. Instead, she motioned for Ethan to come closer. "I want you to meet someone," she said quietly. "This is Amara." Ethan crouched slightly, bringing himself to the girl's eye level. "Hi, Amara," he said, his tone gentle. "How are you?" Amara shrugged, her eyes darting between Ethan and Marlene. She didn't speak, clearly intimidated by his presence. Ethan's brow furrowed as he studied her face, a flicker of something, recognition crossing his features. He stood up abruptly, his expression shifting from curiosity to shock. "What's your mother's name?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Amara hesitated, glancing up at Marlene before answering. "Jasmine," she said softly. Ethan staggered back, his hand running through his hair. "Jasmine," he murmured, his voice cracking. "Oh my God." "Ethan," Marlene asked, her voice filled with concern. "What is it?" Ethan turned to face her, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Mom," he said, his voice breaking. "Jasmine was someone I dated years ago. We lost touch. I didn't know she had a child." The weight of his words sank in, and Marlene suddenly understood everything. Amara wasn't just a lost child. She was her granddaughter, Ethan's daughter. Marlene's hand flew to her mouth as the realization hit her. Ethan crouched down again, his hands trembling as he reached for Amara. "Amara," he said softly, "I'm your dad." The girl stared at him, her eyes wide with a mix of shock and disbelief. "You're my dad?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yes," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. I didn't know about you. But I'm here now, and I promise I'll take care of you." Tears filled Amara's eyes as Ethan pulled her into a gentle embrace. Marlene stood off to the side, tears streaming down her face as she watched her son and granddaughter come together for the first time. It was a moment she would never forget, a moment of healing, of connection, of love. In the days that followed, Ethan wasted no time in making arrangements for Amara. He enrolled her in one of the best schools in the city and hired a private tutor to help her catch up on her education. He also moved her into his home, ensuring she had everything she needed. Amara, once a lost and lonely child, now had a family who loved her and a future to look forward to. As for Marlene, she and Amara quickly formed an unbreakable bond. Every morning, they would walk to the park together, feeding the birds and talking about everything under the sun. Marlene shared stories of Ethan's childhood, laughing as she recounted his mischievous antics, while Amara opened up about her dreams and aspirations. They became each other's confidants, their relationship a source of joy and comfort for them both. Years passed, and Amara grew into a confident and accomplished young woman. On her 18th birthday, Ethan threw a grand celebration in her honor, bringing together friends, family, and colleagues to mark the occasion. As the night wound down, the three of them, Ethan, Marlene, and Amara, sat together, reflecting on how much their lives had changed. "I still can't believe it sometimes," Amara said softly. "That day in the park feels like a lifetime ago. We were all lost in our own way," Marlene said gently. "But we found each other, and that's what matters." Ethan nodded, his eyes filled with pride as he looked at his daughter. "You've come so far, Amara," he said. "You're the best thing that ever happened to this family." Amara smiled, her eyes shining with gratitude. "I wouldn't be here without you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Both of you. You gave me a second chance when I had nothing." "No," Ethan said, his voice steady. "You gave us a second chance. You brought us together. You're the heart of this family." As they sat together, united by love and gratitude, they knew their journey was just beginning. They had faced loss, pain, and uncertainty, but they had come out stronger on the other side. For Marlene, Ethan, and Amara, the future was bright, and their bond as a family was unbreakable. Together, they had found their way home,